So our next steps are going to be to actually move the geometry, right? So we created the vectors that are now all going in different directions. Per each panel, it has an individual direction that it's going to slide. So let's kind of test the theory out. We need to use the vectors, that would be this V input here. We're going to plug that into that, and then we're going to just override the amplitude. And this is just a test right now because we want a degree of variability later, but I'm going to do an amplitude from 0 to 5 for now. And the geometry is going to be our scaled surfaces. That's these right here. So the G input is going to connect here. You see they're all going upwards right now. But once we plug the amplitude in, let me give it an actual number, and then I plug that into T, now you can see they're all kind of going in different directions. And as I move my slider back and move it out, you'll see them kind of shuffling back and forth, particularly along the direction that the vector is going. Pretty neat, huh? So I'm going to leave this here for now, but let me just kind of pause to say, well, right now, they're all moving exactly 3 feet. What do I do if I want to make it a variable number so that there's different numbers that it's going to move? Any ideas? Just shout some names out for what tools you'd use. What's that? Random, yeah, good one. All right, yeah, let's use that. I'm going to get rid of this vector display now because we don't really need it anymore. All right, so under set and sequence, we have the random tool, which we've used as a random number generator before. Random is going to request a range, right? So it's going to have a minimum and a maximum. Then it's going to have a number of numbers in between. And then it's going to have a seed, which is basically going to jostle those numbers around or change them up or something like that. So the range is going to be constructed using a domain. So I'm going to go up to Math and Domain and Construct Domain. And I'm going to do it with sliders and maybe change it later. So I'm just going to say 0.00 less than 5. I'll keep everything at a max of 5 for now. Copy and paste and plug that in. And then kind of bump my end up to somewhere close to 5 for now. Connect that to R. So now our domain is reading 0 to whatever our slider is. And the n is what we need to override now. So what are we going to put in n? If I'm creating a... What's that? There you go, yes. Thank you. You guys are getting better at this. List length. Yeah. I'm getting correct answers now, not just silence. Yes, take it as a compliment. So the list length gets plugged in. Yeah. And so now we have 36 numbers anywhere between 0 and 3.94. So don't worry about the seed. You could put a slider on there from like 0 to 100 or something like that, and you can change it up all you want if you choose. But let's plug this in to the amplitude. Oh, you know what? It needs to be grafted. Yeah, sorry. So I plugged it into the amplitude, and what you saw is that I have 36 panels that are being moved in every case. So I need to graft it just like this, right? So see how the dashed line is coming through on both of the inputs here? I need to get them to match. I need the dashed line and the number of packets of data that are going through. So there are 36 values there to match here. And so I need to graph this into 36 individual list items. Not list items, individual index items. So then when I turn all this other stuff off, the old stuff, what I have here is my new panel. And if I change my maximum value, you can see that it's sliding a little more smoothly now. So maximum, minimum, maximum, minimum. See? Questions about that so far? No questions. Okay, cool. So, what's next? We've got two things I want to do here. The first of which is I want to move these out so that they're proud of the actual building, right? So that's what I did here. You see that they kind of stick outward a little bit. And in my definition, I move them outward at a variable. So like I could create a range and have them be different depths and everything like that. But for simplicity's sake right now, I'm going to make them just move one value out because now you know how to insert variables, right? So I'm going to move this out one value for all of them. So how am I going to do that? I want it to be smart. I want it to be associated to the orientation of all those panels, even if it's a curved surface. So I'm going to use what direction? I need to start using practice models that are curved. I'm going to use the surface normal. Yeah. I use a surface normal because if I rotate this thing into a different orientation, even if it's not curved, even if it's flat, the normal means that it's going to still go proud of the surface itself. You guys remember how to get the surface normal? No? Alright. So I want you guys to write down or like draw what it looks like to connect all of these pieces together to find a surface normal. Okay, it's very, very important. So under surface and analysis, you're going to use surface closest point and evaluate surface. Those two are going to go hand in hand. Evaluate surface and surface closest point. First step is always going to be just connect your UV points. So the UVP goes into UV. That gives you your hint, right? The N is going to be the end product. So you kind of just work backwards from there. You've got a surface input. And then for surface closest point, you also need a surface input. But then the other input you need is a point input, which tells you the only thing you now need to find is a point, which is going to be the center point of each of your individual panels. Yeah. So your center point lives all the way back here. You can plug that in here if you want, or you can make a wireless connection if you so choose. And then the individual surfaces are going to be these. So now you have a z-axis for all of these. That would be your normal axis, is your z-axis for each of those planes that are now mapped onto this surface. Making some sense? Okay. So it's super duper easy now to move it because we have a direction or a list of directions, and we have tools that we just used, so you should definitely know how to use them to create magnitude. That would be move and amplify. So I'm going to pull in under transform, Euclidean. I'm going to use move. I'm also going to go under vector, and I'm going to pull amplitude. So the normal is going to be the vector input for amplitude. Makes sense? And then I'm going to create a slider for how far it's going to go out from the panel, and I'll just say 0 to 5 for now. And I'll just pull it up to 5. And so easily enough, the geometry is going to be moved again. We're layering all these moves now. And then the amplitude gets plugged in, and you'll see that they now sit off of the panel itself. So it's looking really complex right now, but it's really not all that crazy. Questions? I hear a lot of clicking, so I'm going to let you get caught up. And then in the next video, the next and last video, I'm going to show you how to isolate and create the panels that go around to give it some materiality around it. Oops, I didn't mean to close that.